Guys, it happened. Combat is so back. So recently, Hytale dropped its biggest blog post yet, talking about Chapter 1, which is Hytale's first major content update. With it came several exciting features, and today, we're talking about arguably the biggest and definitely most exciting for me, the Rune system. Runes will be the new system that will directly influence combat in Hytale from this point forward. Allow me to explain what it is and how it will completely change the game forever. We are 100 subscribers away from 5k, so please hit that silly little red button to help your boy out. Also, if you're buying Hytale or upgrading editions, please use code CHASER. It really helps me out. Let's start with the official description. You'll be able to equip runes that give your avatar new active combat abilities. An ability rune decides which ability you get, and modifier runes change what it does or how it behaves. You can choose which runes to equip and see how your abilities react to them, which influences how you engage with encounters and how combat feels in general. Runes come in two varieties, abilities and support. Wait a minute. Ability runes are the things that give your weapon its main special trait. In the examples shown, an ability could be a slam with the hammer, a tornado projectile, or a fireball. This is the foundational part of the weapon. Modifier runes are just as important, if not more. As the name implies, modifier runes will change a factor of the ability, a modifier. It mods the weapon. You can apply 2 modifier runes to each weapon, opening the doors of opportunities for very interesting builds. The support runes are what completely makes the weapon unique to the player, because obviously if 2 people wanted the same ability, it doesn't matter. Why? Well, it's actually the theme of this mechanic, that being freedom. If 2 people had fireball spells, one person may want a giant fireball that does tons of damage. So they decide to put on a gigantification rune and a fast shot rune. Obviously, this is all hypothetical. I would think we get similar runes eventually, but not for Chapter 1. Anyway, now this person has a super large, fast-firing fireball. On the other hand, another person can be using the same fireball ability, and they might add a shock rune and a split rune, making the fireball split into 2, which applies the fire and shock debuff. Same ability, 2 completely different builds. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself, that's cool. There's a lot of personalization. My friend, you have seen nothing yet. I would say that the even bigger feature about this mechanic is how abilities react to other things. One of those things is the Hytale world itself. Yes, your weapon that you personalize is directly impacted by the world around you. Rain could soak enemies, ice-based abilities could freeze water blocks, and a fireball coming in contact with a poison barrel could make it explode into a toxic cloud. There are really no limitations with this. It could be raining down on a crowd of enemies, and then you could use a lightning attack on one of them, which chains throughout the rest of the group. Fire-based attacks will blow up explosive and poisonous barrels. This could be especially useful in the new Goblin dungeon since they have these barrels all around. Which leads me to the next interaction. Elements can react with other elements. Lightning is much more powerful when something is wet or it's raining out. Fire is more powerful with explosions. Ice is more powerful with water. All of this makes the environment more real. Here's the even crazier part. Because the elements interact with each other and the world, that also means it applies to other players' abilities. Yes, there are combo moves in Hytale. As shown here, one player can soak an enemy with a water skill, and the other can pair that with a lightning attack to create a devastating blow. One person can use a tornado ability and the other can cast fire on it, enhancing the original move to a flaming tornado. Imagine what attacks you could create with 4 or more players. This system completely promotes multiplayer adventures. The entire point of the system is to allow the player to choose how they want to battle in whatever way they want. Hytale has always been a game about freedom and personalization. I was really worried in the early days of Hytale that combat was going to look like this, just point and click with no depth. But I feel so much better after learning about this new system and reading this part of the blog post. Through all of it, the goal is room to be creative in how you play. Room for very different playstyles and a lot more depth for players who want it, in both PvE and PvP combat. We can't wait to see what kind of clever builds and combos emerge once the system is in your hands. This completely changes everything for both PvE and PvP. There's not a doubt in my mind that this feature will have a domino effect on the rest of the game for the foreseeable future. Runes will be findable around the world, probably in dungeons and other similar structures, and one of the biggest hurdles when making this type of game is to give the player the incentive to continue exploring the world. Obviously, Hytale is in early access, and unfortunately it does suffer from that hurdle. The entire rune system fixes more than one issue. It helps PvP, PvE, exploration, and customizability. This system will also help with avoiding an obvious meta. Now, I mean, looking at these concepts, it's safe to assume we're going to get some crazy builds in the future, especially since they will continue to add skills and support runes over time. For the first chapter, there will most likely be a definitive meta sooner than later, especially considering that there will only be 6 skills and 6 support runes for the launch of Chapter 1. It's important to discuss that while PvE enjoyers will be over the moon about this, PvP will probably be up in flames until the team can properly balance and manage these abilities. And honestly, that's okay. This system is meant to be fun. As much as I love PvP, that won't stop me from running some goofy builds just for the fun of it. Also, not to mention the fact that PvP players are the minority here. There will need to be tons of balancing, but Hytale will eventually get to the point where every rune seems usable and viable in its own right. I'm sure you know that with Chapter 1 will come minigames, although none of them are really PvP based. There will be eventually, but it does beg the question, what will they do about runes for official PvP minigames? The obvious option is to just not have any runes for the weapons, but you could also make the argument that some minigames could be created based around the rune forging system. I think it all really depends on what runes will be allowed, since some will be inevitably broken and what type of game it'll be. Okay, so how will these runes work? The 2 abilities are used by the E and R keys. It's also safe to assume that you can only apply 2 support runes on one weapon, considering this screenshot showing the UI and also this concept art. Now thinking about it, it would kind of get ridiculous having too many abilities, and you would eventually run out of easy keybinds to press. Another question that is left unanswered is, what do abilities cost to use? They could use stamina, mana, or be cooldown based. Considering that on Twitter, Simon said that they wouldn't be touching stamina for Chapter 1, I'm more inclined to think that it's either mana, cooldown based, or both. Mana doesn't really have a large purpose right now, and they did mention wanting it to be something more important for Chapter 1. What's interesting to note is that we still have our signature ability on top of the skills. I would be curious to see how viable the signature will end up being compared to the skills, since the skills seem to outshine them. Another thing that we don't know yet, which is pretty important, is how we will actually apply the runes to our weapons. We know that all of the crafting systems plan to get reworked to be more interactive and involve the world more than before. How would this system adapt for runes? Would we craft runes in the same way that we apply them to our weapons? Is there a way to upgrade the way we craft runes, giving us more rare and stronger abilities? Are there even rarities to runes? I think this feature might seem pretty combat focused at first, but what if it's possible to apply the support skills to our armor and the ability runes to our tools? There is a possibility that gems are only intended to be weapon based, which is fine, but I still think there should be a system in play for armor and tools. Luckily, we might have gotten a hint with this screenshot, because this shows that at the very least, weapons can also have enchantments on top of the gems. Now, I don't want to pretend like I know what these enchants do, but it's kind of wild to think that after applying our skill and support gems, we can make our weapon even stronger by enchanting it. Enchants are not planned for Chapter 1 though. The blog confirms that right here. Regardless, this system is going to make for some really interesting, high-skilled, and very fun combat. I'm super hyped to get in-game and start testing out some crazy combinations. So there you have it. Currently, this is all we know about the rune system in Hytale. Drop a comment down below what type of rune you would want to see in the game. They're still in a very early state of development, so just remember that things are subject to change. In their words, runes are being introduced in Chapter 1, and the in-depth rune forging system will come later. Regardless, this is my most anticipated feature, so I can't wait to see how it grows from here. Thank you guys so much for watching, watch out for lightning, and have a good night.